Right, this is the testing of the Crest Motorsport harness for his customer Adam. This is a JZ modular harness designed for an ECUMaster black ECU, and all brand new build and constantly twisted. And we'll go through the modular system now, just so you know what's going on. And first of all, we're going to go through and show you what it looks like underneath and how it's built, and see the quality of work there. So give me a second and I'll be back with you guys. Right, so that's all done, so you see what it looks like underneath there. So what first thing we're going to do is we're going to go through the whole harness and how it's laid out, just so you can refer to it in future if you need to. So starting from here, obviously we've got our ECU over here, those two plugs over there. We've got our auxiliary plug over here, which carries all the unused inputs and output, things like CAN, RS-232, etc. in there, so you don't have to mess around with the plugs over there. We've got our fuse box, which has a 6-pin plug over there and a 12-pin plug over there. That's what supplies all the power to the ECU and to the harness itself. You've got a very simple customer plug over here. That's where you give it your permanent 12 volts ignition, start, and so on. We'll go through that when we actually start the engine up. This customer is also having an ADU, so this is a 7-inch ADU, so we'll be taking the CAN data from here to the actual ADU from there. All right, and so carrying on up along here, you'll see this would obviously be bent sort of 90 degrees to come out and go inside the vehicle like that, where the grommet is. We do keep it loose, and obviously Tom at Crest is going to work out where this is best suited once it's inside the vehicle, because these are all custom vehicles. So coming up along the back here, we've got our first split is going to be there. So we've got our injector sub harness there, we've got our wideband oxygen sensor sub harness there, and we've got our ignition sub harness there. And the ignition sub harness has got its own earth, so that can be attached to the inlet manifold, underneath the inlet manifold, to the back of the head, wherever you want, okay, as long as it gets a good decent ground. Coming along further, we'll have another breakout over here, and then we're going to have our cam sensor. So again, this is a permanent feature, so we put the plug on so you can go directly in. And then we've got our earth over there, and usually that bolts up here if it's a GTE, and so forth. And then we'll go further along there, and this breakout over here, all of these harnesses are actually going to push through the inlet manifold to come through underneath here. And we've got our oil sub harness, so that's going to go there. We've got our fuel sub harness, we've got our throttle sub harness, and we've got our knock sub harness. And then lastly, we've got our starter motor solenoid plug. So again, that goes down in there and then plugs into the starter motor over there. Now the harness carries on along here down the front. Now this is obviously going onto a non-VVTi engine, so we don't have a split here to go off to the VVTi valve, so that's absolutely fine. And then coming down here, again, same thing as our usual modular harness. We've got our crank sensor over there. Again, this is a standard feature, so we leave that plug on there ready for you to go. And on the alternator, most of them come with these. If you have a very old one and it does have a round plug, we can make an adapter plug to go from that to that. Otherwise, you can just fit a new style alternator if yours is broken already and upgrade to a newer one like that. Then we've also got our coolant temperature, which is again on a sub harness, so you can change the coolant temp sensors whenever you want. And we've got our Mach boost valve over here as well, so that brings the Mach boost valve in this corner close to where the turbo is. Makes the vacuum lines a little bit easier to run, etc. So that is how it's all laid out. And then what we'll do is we're going to go through each of the sub harnesses, explain how they work, and then how exactly you can operate with them. So starting off at the back here, we're going to start at the beginning. So we've got injectors over here. So in this case, this particular customer is using U-Scar injectors. So we've got that harness over there. That plugs straight into there. You run it along there and you plug all your injectors in there. Coming over to our wideband sensor over there. So you'll see here we've made a little adapter harness there. So there's your, that plugs in directly into the harness, and that plugs directly into your LSU 4.9 sensor, which is what the customer is going to run in this case. Coming over to ignition, we've got our Audi VW coil sub harness there. So So again, that plugs straight into there. What's also really nice is because we put the earth on this side, the actual harness side, when you want to do any servicing and change spark plugs, etc., you can actually just unplug here, pull all the coils out without having to actually unplug each individual coil, and then you can change the spark plugs and then put them all back in one go and just plug in one plug at the back there like that. All right, coming forward, again, the grounds are very simple. You just bolt them onto anywhere where you can get a decent ground. So coming along here, we've got our throttle plug. So built into this is the ability for you to change whatever you want. So in this particular case, the customer is using a standard 1JZ GT throttle. So we've got our TPS plug there. We've got our IAT temperature sensor plug over there. And because he's got the idle control valve at the back of the inlet manifold, you'll see we've got a nice long section of wire there going over and pinned out to an idle control valve. We have built everything in, so if the customer ever wanted to change over to drive-by-wire, absolutely no problem. He can just buy a separate harness that would allow him to run drive-by-wire. It's all already in there for you. Okay. Next up is our oil. Now in this case, this particular customer is using a combined oil pressure and temperature sensor. So again, we've made a little harness over there. So we haven't included the actual oil pressure switch because he's using the dash. Obviously the ECU will receive the oil pressure and we can do a warning light on there. So again, that's that over there. So if you wanted to have one of these with an oil pressure switch, if you wanted to have a dummy light, again, super nice and easy. Just phone us up, we'll make you one like that. And then you can have both this sensor and an oil pressure switch as a backup if you wanted to. Again, not necessarily in this case because he's got a whole dash and he can actually see all his live data. Right. Then next up, we've got fuel pressure sensor. This is obviously really self-explanatory. It's just a 3-pin DTM plug. You can fit whatever fuel pressure sensor you want on there. If you didn't want to use fuel pressure, but you wanted another type of pressure, go ahead. You can also do that as well on there. And then last but not least, you've got your knock over there. So what we've basically done is, the reason it's a 6-pin is we've allocated the ability to either run Bosch wideband knock sensors or the standard knock sensors. In this case, customer is going to be running the standard knock sensor. So again, there's his little harness over there. If the customer wanted to upgrade to like the Bosch style wideband sensors, again, not a problem. We can build a harness that goes straight onto these. All the wiring is already in here, ready to go. So he doesn't have to worry about changing the harness whenever he wants to change that. Okay, so that's all those plugs over there. Again, they push down through the inlet manifold over there. So all of that wiring goes underneath and stays neat and nicely out of the way for you. Okay, and then coming down here, so again, we've got our coolant temp sensor over there. So in this case, we've got the little adapter over there, which is going to go to a standard 1JZ GT, like a JZZ31 over there. And then we've got his MAC over there. And that's obviously going to go to a MAC sensor, which we've got over there ready to go in. Okay, so obviously, as you can see, this is completely modular. Once you buy this, you don't have to worry about anything. If you want to change the drive-by-wire, no problem, just plug in a new sub harness. If you want to change your injectors for some bigger ones, no problem, just unplug it and go away. If you want to change to R35 coils or Denso coils, again, no problem. All the wiring is already in there. You just plug it in and go. With the ECUmaster, as it's able to run dumb coils, which is what you get standard on a JZ, we've actually wired this in such a way that you could literally wire these dumb coils up to the ECUmaster. Do bear in mind, this is only applicable to these ones that are designed specifically for ECUmaster. The likes of Lincoln Haltech do not support firing these directly, and so we haven't allocated or built in an igniter because it's very rare. Usually you guys change all of these anyway. But yeah, if you have an ECUmaster, you can use existing dumb coils from there. Okay, so hopefully that's super helpful. Again, it's a very straightforward harness. I just wanted to show it like this because once you put the inlet manifold on, obviously you ain't going to see anything at all. So next up, what we're going to do is we're actually going to plug this all in. We're going to get it all started up. We'll have the dash working and all of that, and we'll go through all of those wires over there that are built into the fuse box. All right, but thanks for watching, guys, and yeah, we'll see you in a bit. Okay, we're back with Adam's harness. So this is obviously testing time. We do have his screen and everything set up so that we can make sure that everything is working and communicating as it should do. So that's absolutely fine. So again, we're not going to go through all the harnesses. We've already been through that, but obviously we just got our test harness on here. We're using the dumb JZ coils to run the engine at the moment. You've got a harness for the Denso coils that are there. Coming underneath now, we've actually got it hooked up. So we've got our oil pressure and temp sensor hooked up. We've got our fuel pressure sensor hooked up. We've got our knock sensor harness all connected underneath here. So as you can see, it just tucks away underneath here nicely. Obviously we've adapted our coolant temp sensor to come over to the other side. 1JZ and GT don't have the coolant temp sensor on this side. Throttle wise, obviously we've got his TPS hooked in there. We've got an idle control, an EGR, same thing. Stepper motor on here to confirm that the idle control valve is working. and we've got our intake air temperature sensor to do that. Right, so coming over to the fuse box, all we've got to worry about here is there's one plug to connect on this front, and what it is you've got your two reds, that's permanent 12 volt supply, you've got your grey, that's your fuel pump supply, you've got your black with your red, that's ignition, you've got your black with your yellow, that's your start signal, so that controls the starter relay. We've got our pink with our blue, which is the alternator light, which obviously is not going to be necessary in this one because we have the dash over there. We've got our yellow with the red, which is check engine light. Again, he's got the dash, but it's a standardized system. Black with the yellow, oil pressure, and yellow tacho. Obviously, these in this particular case are more than likely not going to be connected. The dash is going to receive all the CAN data from the ECU, which is then going to use to transmit whatever warnings he wants, whether it be oil pressure, oil temp, fuel pressure, etc., etc. Okay, so that's nice and simple to connect up for Crest Motorsport over there. No problems there. We've now got the auxiliary plug in here, so I've built a 2-meter long harness which communicates with the dash, and as you're aware, you need a USB to CAN adapter to talk to the dash, so you can obviously use the software. So I've got the software open over here so we can do all our settings, all our warnings, etc., etc. When we get a chance, we'll do a more in-depth video on an ADU and how that works. This is the 7-inch ADU, by the way, so this is the bigger of the two. You've got a 5-inch and a 7-inch. Okay, so you can obviously customize these screens quite a lot. You can put a load of warning functions in, you can have shift lights, you can do the whole 9 yards. And then obviously you can connect up to the back, you can actually add sensors to it. You can also add like wheel speed sensors to do that. ECUMaster do have a GPS to CAN, so you can use that if you want to use GPS for your speed. And it also does a lot of data logging as well, so if you want to hook up a USB flash drive, there's the option for that as well. And if you have any other sensors in case your ECUMaster is full, again, you can connect them to there and you can transmit that data via CAN if you wanted to. All right. So all we're going to do now is we're going to start the motor up so you can hear it run. We're going to rev it up. We're going to show you that the dash is all working. When I put the ignition on, you're going to see the idle control valve go into a sequence to reset itself. So I'm going to try and keep the camera on there as I do it so you can see that's all working. So all I'm going to do literally is put the red or the black to 12 volts, and that's going to put the ignition on. So I'm going to hold this as best I can here. I'm trying to do this single-handedly. Sorry, I have to go through that again. Okay, so happy that that works. Obviously with the modular harness we can do drive-by-wire, but I've got this set up like this just to make sure that all of this does work. But again, I've got another video that's going to come along with all of these to actually show you the drive-by-wire working with a particular harness like this, to show you that you can have either or, and all you got to do is replace the throttle harness section over there. So feel free to go and watch that if you'd like. So nice and simple. Black with the red, black with the yellow tracer, that is your start signal. All I'm going to do is touch the 12 volts and she's going to start up. So let's do that a second. Okay. So it's running all good. We've got our dash working, coolant temp, oil temperature, 24 degrees. As you can see here, we've got 31 degrees, 89 degrees on the coolant, and that matches up over there. Okay. Right, so that's it. Bring it down so it idles nicely. No problem there at all. Disconnect the fuel pump so I can take her all apart. Okay, so everything is working. We've tested all the harnesses and everything. We've obviously tested all the pressure sensors and the temperatures working on the oil temp, and we've tested the mag boost valve and all of that as well. So I've done those off camera. It's just a simple case of going through and testing your outputs. We do have a video about the ECUMaster and how to test your outputs. So again, do feel free to go and check out that. We've also got the ECUMaster videos on how to set up your inputs and your outputs and so on and so forth. So all these harnesses do come with documentation to tell you exactly what is connected to where. The LED, if you're wondering, in the fuse box is actually connected to the check engine light. It's in case people don't have a dash or they don't want to get it just wired up with, you know, power and fuel pump like I've done here, and they want to see if everything's working. That's that for you there. And then obviously we give that out there so you can actually take it to a dash if you're not using an ADU along with your ECUmaster. All right, so hopefully that's been helpful. Hopefully that's been informative. We're going to get this packed up now and get it off to Crest Motorsport so they can get it installed and get the vehicle running. But that's it from us, guys. And if you have any other questions, please feel free to fire them down in the comments. Message us at Facebook at Phoenix Engine Management. What we'll do now is we're going to cut to a picture of the harness all over the table, just showing you everything with all the sub harnesses and everything connected to it, so it's all complete. So thanks for watching. We'll see you again later, and cheers. Bye.